Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We will be talking about how to maximize IRA incentives with SolarEdge and PanelClaw for your community, commercial, and industrial projects. Quick housekeeping before we begin. This webinar is being recorded and you will be muted throughout, but feel free to leave any questions you have in the Q&A box, and we will get to them at the end. My name is Varsha, and I am the Director of Product Marketing for CNI at SolarEdge. Joining me today is Kleber Fakini, who is our Director of Product Management for CC&I, and John DePap, who is the SVP of Product Management and Marketing at PanelClaw. It's great to have you both here today, John and Kleber.
Thank you.
So let me quickly walk you through the agenda for today. Kleber will start by discussing the importance of SolarEdge's US manufacturing facilities. He will then be explaining how SolarEdge is meeting domestic content requirements with our new line of inverters and optimizers, and how this supports both compliance and performance for commercial projects. Next, John will be walking us through the PanelClaw domestic content products, highlighting how their racking systems meet the criteria for domestic content bonus and are contributing to the US manufacturing goals. We'll also be exploring how the combined SolarEdge and PanelClaw solution works together to provide a straightforward, cost-effective way to qualify for the domestic content bonus tax credit, while also delivering technical excellence in commercial solar projects. Kleber will then discuss some quantifiable benefits of domestic content, including financial incentives and reduced balance of system costs and some competitive advantages. And John will follow up with similar benefits related to PanelClaw products. Finally, we'll open up the floor for a Q&A session to address any questions or clarifications you have. So feel free to submit it through the box and we'll do our best to answer them at the end. With that, Kleber, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Varsha. Welcome, John. And very excited here to present this webinar with PanelClaw and to really bring, more education, more awareness of domestic content bonus adder and how to achieve that with our combined products. Okay. So, but first, as Varsha mentioned, so I'll start with this with SolarEdge, where we're manufacturing our products, and then also do some education, try to do some education, like with regards to the guidance in the legislation. Okay. First, let's start with the manufacturing piece for SolarEdge, right? So we are committed and we have announced domestic manufacturing in the United States. We're now producing residential commercial inverters and optimizers. We opened our first US manufacturing facility in Austin, Texas in late 2023 and reaching a quarterly run rate of 50,000 residential inverters by Q2 of 24. Our second facility in Tampa, Florida, recently shipped 20,000 domestic content power optimizers and is projected to produce around 2 million units per quarter when fully operational. We plan to start manufacturing commercial inverters and power optimizers there in early 2025. This initiative is expected to create approximately 1,750 new jobs by the end of 2024, strengthening local economies and provide significant economic benefits to the communities we serve. So really bringing jobs, to the states in Texas and Florida, taking advantage of the legislation passed by the federal government. So next, let's look at the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act tax credits. As we all know, there are two different tax credits that can get domestic content. Okay, so the legislation has extended two key tax incentives for commercial PV systems: the production tax credit, which is the PTC, and the investment tax credit, which is both traditionally offering developers and site owners up to 30% tax credit. As we all know, on the C&I, it's mainly ITC, the ITC that the folks are using. But let's talk, right? I mean, for the benefits of education, let's touch upon both. Okay. The RA also includes a 10% bonus credit for projects that utilize domestic content in their PV systems. To qualify for this bonus, projects must meet specific domestic content thresholds for sourced PV equipment, including modules, inverters, MLP, and racking. The table in the slide outlines the required levels of domestic content for eligibility for the bonus credit with the ITC or PTC based on the year the project is built. While the PTC, the production tax credit, begins at a 40% domestic content requirement to achieve the bonus credit, it increases by 5% in 2025, all the way up to 55% for projects built in 2027 through 2035. For the ITC, however, domestic content needs to be at 40% to qualify without any increase. A congressional drafting error is the reason that the ITC doesn't ramp up year over year like the PTC. As such, it is currently set at 40%, and the US Treasury Department does not have the authority to make that change. If an adjustment is made, it would need to be through an act of Congress, okay? And the tax writing committees in Congress are aware of this situation and may determine to correct it in the next tax bill, but this remains to be determined. Okay. So initially, right, I mean, so now we're going to touch upon how to achieve and how to calculate the domestic content of a project, of your project. Initially, the Treasury required manufacturers to calculate the domestic content contribution of equipment based on direct costs. However, in the spring of 2024, Treasury released Notice 2024-41, introducing an alternative method for calculating domestic content contributions for PV projects. Okay, this notice introduced a new safe harbor table, simplifying the calculation process compared to the previous direct cost approach. And this was in response to industry feedback. Okay, so this elective safe harbor table option no longer mandates disclosing internal costs for all solar system equipment. The safe harbor table that we show here lists manufactured products and components, each with a relative contribution towards the total domestic content percentage threshold needed to qualify for the 10% bonus credit. The table is organized into 4 categories based on project type: ground mount tracking, ground mount fixed, and rooftop MLP, right? Rooftop MLP and rooftop string. Each category contains applicable project components, which are the APCs, which are further divided into manufactured product components, MPCs. The contribution percentages for each MPC are derived from historical data on PV project bills of materials, with all MPCs totaling 100% for each project type. Instead of calculating direct cost, users can simply refer to the relevant category and add the points to reach their target. For instance, a SolarEdge DC optimized inverter system falls under the rooftop MLP category, with the red box right in the slide indicating the achievable percentage points for these MPCs. The blue box showed the percentage points available for domestic content rooftop racking MPCs within the same category. Okay, so the domestic content contribution is determined by adding the percentage of the MPCs in the rooftop MLP column. Okay, and for the inverter, this contribution can total 35.6%, while for racking, it can reach 25.8%, resulting in a combined domestic content total of 61.4%. And this is why, right, I mean, John and I were here talking and we're going to be explaining how this can be achieved with inverters and with racking. To demonstrate the amount of money that's available to owners or developers when they achieve the domestic content threshold, we look at two project sizes, one at 200 kW and one at 1.5 megawatts. Assuming an average project cost of $2 per watt DC, okay, the total project cost for each of these is around $400,000 for the small system and $3 million for the larger system that we show here, respectively. If the domestic content threshold is achieved, the bonus credit of 10%, right, for domestic content could be worth up to an additional $40,000 savings for the 200 kW system and $300,000 on the 1.5 megawatt project. So this is the savings, right? Or this is the credit that's achieved if if you're able to get the domestic content threshold within the project. And we're going to show how to get that now. Using the elective safe harbor table that I showed previously, which is the table 1 from IRS Notice 2024-41, there are several paths that the project owner or developer can take to achieve the domestic content bonus credit. And each has its advantages and disadvantages based on the present market conditions. The goal is to achieve the domestic content threshold, right, which is 40% in 2024, by choosing equipment that provides the needed contribution from the table. The equipment supplier, inverters, racking, modules, advises what MPC, which is manufactured product component, on the table that are eligible for domestic content. And project owners will add this up with the goal to achieve the minimum project domestic level. Okay. So the paths are the following, right? So let's talk each of the paths here. The first two paths are modules only and modules with racking. Both are virtually impossible or very difficult, right? Because there is almost no availability of modules with domestic content, and there is a price premium on the modules that do exist of about 15 to 20 cents a watt. The concern of module availability is also exacerbated as the domestic content production for modules are being targeted for ground mount applications, where the contribution of modules towards the domestic calculation is much higher than for rooftop. Okay. Another path is string inverters plus racking. Using the rooftop string column, the combination string inverters plus racking adds up to 44.6%. If all their manufactured product components meets the domestic content criteria. As I explained previously, the domestic content threshold for ITC remains at 40% due to a drafting error in the law, unless there is a change. But we're hearing that customers are planning for domestic content level higher than 40% for risk mitigation in case the law is changed, where the level increased by 5% year over year until it reaches 55%. The last path I show here is achieving the path with inverter plus racking using rooftop MLP column. The contribution of their MPCs is up to 61.4% if all of them are available. As John and I will explain in the next few slides, SolarEdge inverters will have the MPCs domestically made by March 2025, and therefore able to contribute 35.6% towards the domestic content threshold. And John will show that the PanelClaw racking system has full domestic MPCs contributing to 25.8% towards this calculation. The advantage of this path is that price premium for domestic content products is estimated to be around 2.5 cents a watt, mainly for the inverters, okay, when compared to present non-domestic solutions. So the combination of SolarEdge C&I products plus PanelClaw racking provides the least expensive and readily available path for project owners to achieve the domestic content bonus credit in their projects. Okay. So now let's do a quick look at SolarEdge before I pass SolarEdge products, before I pass to John. But so here's what from our level, right, the milk percentage. This is what we're planning to offer starting March 2025. Our C&I inverters and optimizers being manufactured in Tampa, Florida, will have enough domestic content to contribute to 35.6% towards the domestic content calculation for a project when using the elective safe harbor table, okay, rooftop MLP category that we showed previously. This is very important as our products will help owners and developers to achieve the maximum benefits they can get when building or developing a rooftop project. And here's the lineup of C&I domestic content inverters and optimizers. Okay, just a quick inverter, just a quick word on inverters. So the same inverter modules we're currently offering will also be available. But in the effort to streamline inventory for our customers and partners, we are reducing the numbers of inverter SKUs from 11 SKUs to only 3, plus the synergy unit SKU. This is to help improve efficiency for the folks who stock these units and reduce project lead time. The same 9 power classes options, right, that we have will remain for 3-phase inverters, and they can be chosen during inverter commissioning. Okay. And there will also be 2 optimizer models. The C651U for rooftop applications where rapid shutdown is needed, and the C652U for carports where rapid shutdown is not a requirement. Okay, and now I'll turn to John to explain the PanelClaw products.
Thank you very much, Kleber. Let me start by introducing PanelClaw. PanelClaw is the leading provider of commercial rooftop mounting solutions in the US market. We're actually part of a larger company. Our parent company is called Enstal, that's headquartered in the Netherlands. And we have an annual manufacturing capacity in the US of 1.5 gigawatts. It turns out that that's enough to supply the entire commercial rooftop market in the US. We're not quite there today. We think we're providing roughly half of it. But we have built out our supply chain so that the company can scale without restriction, and to deal with the lumpiness that you tend to have, the seasonality that we all experience in the solar industry. Our current mounting system that we propose really for any commercial flat roof product, that is our focus. We're focused on commercial flat roof, although we do offer some other products for pitched roofs, really through partnerships with other install companies. But I will focus on flat roof for today's discussion about domestic content. It's the Claw FR platform. The current version of the Claw FR product that we're selling is called Claw FR Plus. It's an enhanced version of the original Claw FR system that was introduced in 2019. And today I will focus more or less exclusively on the Claw FR system because that's what we're recommending for all new projects. We're still shipping Claw FR, but we've transitioned during the course of this year to Claw FR Plus, as I said, for all new projects. We also have a suite of wire management accessories that are engineered for the Claw FR products. And I'll touch on those briefly as well. As far as digital solutions, I just want to mention quickly that we have a commercial design platform called Claw OS that we use heavily to provide design services to our customers, but it is also available to any customer that wants to undertake some design work themselves. On the fulfillment side, really to facilitate order management, we have a software application called ClawLogic, which is quite widely adopted by procurement teams across our customer base. and it makes communication with our operations team much more efficient. It's something we introduced last year, and it's been extremely well received by the market. The last point on this slide is that PanelClaw has a long history of not only following the codes and standards that are required for selling and permitting commercial projects in the US market, but also actively participating in the committees that develop those codes and standards. So we're very proud of that involvement, and we work hard to move the industry forward on a continuous basis. Next slide, please. So again, the products that we're actively selling in the US market really are built around our Qualifier Plus product line. There are 3 versions of this product. They're all for commercial flat roofs, so industrial buildings of really any size. The 3 variants of this product are a 5-degree single tilt product, a 10-degree single tilt product, and a dual tilt product, which is also 10 degrees. These are really the dominant PV system configurations that you see in the commercial low slope rooftop market. And so our product can adapt to any one of those system configurations. And there are a common set of components which are used across all of these versions of the product. So if an installer learns how to build one of them, they will effectively know how to build all 3 variants because of that commonality. Also on the slide, on the bottom portion, you'll notice that we have some wire management accessories. I won't go into these in any depth, but I just want to mention that they are available. As with the structural components, these wire management accessories are all manufactured in the US. The advantage of buying wire management accessories from us is that these components are custom engineered to snap onto our racking components. And so they make the installation much, much easier. And they have enjoyed great popularity in our customer base. So I recommend taking a look at those if you're using our mounting products. Next slide, please. So PanelClaw has a proud history of manufacturing in the US. In fact, going back to the founding of PanelClaw back in 2007, we introduced our first product in 2008. We elected to manufacture all of our products in the US from day one. And we really have not altered that strategy other than providing some additional manufacturing capacity at various times over our history by using overseas sources, overseas suppliers. However, today, all of our manufacturing is in the US, with the minor exception of some smaller components that we optionally manufacture domestically or overseas. But the primary components of the Qualifier and Qualifier Plus product lines are all built in the US. The advantage with respect to the domestic content requirements of the Inflation Reduction Act is that we do not have to rebuild our supply chain to supply qualifying components. Therefore, there's really no impact on capacity, availability, or pricing. So we're actually, in our view, in an advantageous position relative to many of our competitors with respect to domestic content. Next slide, please. Let's discuss how C&I rooftop racking from PanelClaw qualifies as domestic content using the elective safe harbor table in Notice 2024-41. The table has some ambiguity that allows for different interpretations. For example, there is no definition for what a fastener or a rail is for the column labeled trackers and non-steel rooftop racking. The non-steel row label is also ambiguous since there is no steel and iron exclusion for rooftop string or MLPE as there is for the ground mount columns. Any racking specified for rooftop projects must have its components mapped to rail and fasteners. PanelClaw's interpretation of the table relies on 2 points, which are shown on the slide. The first one being that the rooftop columns of Table 1 do not confirm the applicability of the steel or iron requirement for rooftop PV systems. The second point is that the IRS or the Treasury Department will accept PanelClaw's component mapping as shown in the following slide. And we can go ahead and advance to the next slide with that. So here's the table I mentioned earlier that maps the components of the ClawFR and ClawFR Plus mounting systems to either the fastener category or the rail category. We believe this is a fairly straightforward process, and that's partly because the ClawFR and ClawFR Plus systems are arguably rail-based mounting systems. However, there's still some interpretation required when it comes to determining exactly what is a fastener and what is a rail. And I will mention that we have more than a handful of customers that have carefully reviewed all the information that we provided, as well as the legislation, and worked with their legal counsel and their tax advisors, and have concluded that this approach is viable. And they have submitted applications to the Treasury Department and are waiting to hear back, hopefully, on an approval of those applications. So we feel confident in this approach. As I said, nonetheless, we do believe that further guidance will help provide additional confidence and convince other industry stakeholders to sort of move forward and attempt to utilize this this bonus credit without hesitation. Next slide, please. At this point, I'm going to hand it back to Kleber.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Just going to present the next couple of slides here, then I'll turn back to John. But so I presented the SolarEdge domestic content lineup products, right, and our levels. John presented right the PanelClaw racking in terms of domestic content level. So let's summarize, right? I mean, like kind of bring it home with regards to the combined solution, right? I mean, how powerful this is. Okay, so that's what we're showing here, right? I mean, using the SolarEdge inverter system and PanelClaw racking path to achieve the domestic content bonus credit, project owners and developers will be able to achieve 61.4% domestic content level and therefore meet the minimum threshold to claim the added bonus. This is again to the fact that SolarEdge contributes to 35.6% and PanelClaw racking contributes to the 25.8% based on the elective safe harbor table that I showed a few minutes ago. Okay. So PanelClaw racking is available today for what John said, and the SolarEdge inverters, domestic content inverters, will start shipping in March 2025, but we're already open for orders. So again, combination of SolarEdge inverters and PanelClaw racking provides the most cost-effective and readily available path for solar developers and owners to achieve the domestic content bonus credit. Okay. So just to exemplify a little bit more, right? Just going to compare to the two different paths, right? I mean, that the folks are using to achieve the RA's bonus credit, the domestic content bonus credit that we discussed earlier. So here's really trying, I mean, we ran a model, right? I mean, to show the benefits of both. So we picked a couple of projects, right? I mean, a smaller project and a larger project. And one path utilizing domestic content SolarEdge inverters and PanelClaw racking, and the other path utilizing domestic content PV modules and racking. So those are the two graphs that you see here. On the left-hand side of my screen, the 60 kW rooftop, right, 208 volts AC, and on the right-hand side, a 1.5 megawatt rooftop. Okay, and for each of the graphs, we're showing the case you achieving, right? I mean, kind of running or doing the project with domestic content, SolarEdge products, and PanelClaw, and on the green graph that's using modules, right? Solar modules that have domestic content, or meaning like cells, and racking that has domestic content, and string inverters that are not manufactured in the US. Okay. The results show that the path using domestic content SolarEdge inverters and PanelClaw racking is the most cost-effective way to achieve the bonus credit. While the price premium for SolarEdge inverters and optimizers is around, like what as we mentioned, 2.5 cents a watt increase, the price premium for PV modules has an estimated increase of 15 to 20 cents a watt. Okay. The net result is that the solution with SolarEdge inverters and PanelClaw racking, which will be available starting in March 2025, has an estimated savings on total project cost of 17 cents a watt. That is after the bonus credits applied to both systems, translating to a savings of $10,000 on the 60 kW system and $250,000 on the 1.5 megawatt system. Okay, so if you folks would like, we can schedule a meeting. We can run through this model, individually, and you can run this model for specific projects as well. Okay, I'll turn that back to John. John.
Okay, thank you, Kleber. Yeah, I want to point out some technical advantages of securing SolarEdge optimizers to PanelClaw racking. As you may know, optimizers can be attached to module frames, or they can be secured to the racking. We have worked with SolarEdge for quite a few years now to ensure that we offer a mounting accessory to secure the optimizers directly to the racking. Why? Because we've learned from installers that they generally prefer to mount the optimizers to the racking for a few reasons. First off, it is very common that solar modules are not yet available at the time that a project starts to be constructed. So it's very common that we ship racking to a project site, and the installers start to assemble that racking days, if not weeks, before modules are available on site. The design of the QualiFar and QualiFar Plus platform makes that project build sequence very straightforward. You can essentially fully assemble the racking and do a fair bit of wiring of the system, call it pre-wiring, before modules are on site. And the optimizers are part of that process. The way the optimizers mount on the QualiFar system is using a very simple bracket that connects the optimizer to the component we call the tilt arm. It's elevated as high off the roof as possible, which is also advantageous. And other than enabling crews to move forward and attach optimizers before modules are on the project site, the position of the optimizer is such that it can easily be accessed even after the system is fully constructed. One of the advantages of that is that the QR codes, which are printed on the optimizers, can be scanned even with the system fully assembled. As you may know, there is a scanning process to configure your SolarEdge system. which is necessary. And so that's that feature of being able to scan the optimizers even after they're installed is something we work closely with SolarEdge to develop. And installers find it extremely useful. I think that's it, Kleber. I'll hand it back to you.
Right. Thank you, John. And just to finalize, I would say, place your orders today. So we're open for orders for both SolarEdge inverters, PanelClaw racking. Very excited. And like John said, it's available today for racking for SolarEdge inverters. We're going to start shipping in March 2025, but we're open for orders. Okay. And one last slide before we go for Q&A. Just wanted to mention that we are doing a series of webinars to raise awareness of domestic content and also from educational purposes. So the next webinar in the series will be on November 20th, 11 a.m. Pacific, when SolarEdge and Novogradac, Novogradac is a leading CPA tax firm, will be presenting. We'll be talking more about domestic content. Novogradac will talk from a perspective of CPA to explain the legislation and also talk about products, right? I mean, kind of providing examples on how that the domestic content can be achieved. So we'll be sending the invite very shortly here. Please be on the lookout. And with that, I think we'll turn to Q&A.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you, John and Kleber, for those nuggets of information on how the solutions can provide a cost-effective path to domestic content. I would like to open the floor to Q&A now. And if you haven't already done, please leave your questions in the questions box. There's been quite a few coming in, so let me open them up. Give me a second. Okay, all right. So let's start going through these. Okay, this might be a good question for John. The elective safe harbor table indicates it is applicable to non-steel racking only. Can you confirm that the PanelClaw racking can be used with the table?
Yes, I can confirm that. I tried to explain when I presented this slide that in the safe harbor table, the steel and iron requirement that you see for for ground mount products is blank for rooftop products. So from our perspective and also the perspective of legal counsel that we've consulted with, that part of the table is yet to be completed, and that's where much of the ambiguity comes from, and that's where we expect the IRS and the Treasury Department to complete the table in the next round of guidance, so that there is no question about where the steel and iron requirement applies or does it not apply. Our conclusion is that it does not apply. And further, we believe that the material used to manufacture the racking components is not going to impact its qualifying status.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you for that, John. Kleber, we've had this question before in our previous webinars, but what is the reasoning behind the one-to-one configuration that was chosen for the new domestic content power optimizer?
Yes, thank you, Varsha, for that. Yes, so the reason is so that the system can be, that's whenever you use the SolarEdge inverters with DC optimizers, customers, project owners, they can qualify and use the rooftop MLP category. So for a system to be able to be used on that category and therefore, right, to maximize, be able to provide 35.6%, that's the configuration that needs to be done, which is the inverters plus the optimizers on a one-to-one configuration, which is a DC optimized inverter system.
Yes.
So we did this, we made this choice to qualify to help the customers to achieve the 35.6%.
Yes, and I think to Clever's point, SolarEdge being the innovator in power optimizers, we already had a 2-to-1, and in order to qualify for the MLP table that Clever showed, it had to be a 1-to-1. So we jumped right on that and created this new power optimizer.
That's correct.
Okay, so let's see. A few questions here are about whether you will get this presentation afterwards. So I'm going to say that we will send the recording along with some resources in the next 2 weeks. So keep an eye out for that. There will be an email coming as a post event email. Okay, let's see. Okay, question probably for that could be addressed by both of you is, will you be supporting customers that want to use the direct cost method, and how would that work? Clever, do you want to take that first, and then I'll turn it to John?
Yes, thank you. Yes, we will. We'll be supporting, customers that need to do direct cost calculation and also safe harbor table. And we stand ready to support. And in the case that you use the direct cost calculation, our inverter, our system will qualify to 100% of its cost to the numerator of that equation.
I see. And John, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, we're happy to work with customers using the direct cost method. We will just ask them to sign an NDA before we discuss the details of our costs and so forth. I will mention that we've had no customers actually request to work with us on the direct cost method, and I think that's simply because of the updated guidance in the safe harbor table, which makes it much simpler to actually utilize the bonus without getting into long drawn out discussions with suppliers about their cost structure.
That's right. Yep. Thank you both for that. Okay, a few more questions. Clever, I think this is a good one for you. Won't the cost of twice as many optimizers and the upfront cost mainly negatively impact the project financials now that you have 1-to-1?
Yeah, that's also a very good question that I also am asked. We're asked frequently, right? So as I mentioned, right, during the presentation, is that the increase in pricing, when considering the increase on optimizer is about 2.5 cents a watt, right? That's going to depend on the project. That's going to depend on the volume, but it's not going to be more than 2.5 cents a watt premium compared to the 2-to-1 system that we have. And this slight increase in price will be more than offset by fewer strings, right? That we discussed in the previous webinar, because now you can have fewer strings with this new optimizer, which reduced balance of system costs, plus the bonus, right? The domestic content bonus adder.
Yes, that makes sense. And Clever, you would say that this is probably the lowest premium available in the market for a domestic content product line.
That's correct. Yes. Like I mentioned, right? With the modules, we're hearing anywhere between 10, 15 to 20 cents a watt with regards to domestic content products.
Yeah, speaking about modules, I think that we have a question here. And I think we're asked this frequently, and Clever can attest to it. But there is a question on, for domestic content, in order to qualify for the bonus tax credit, I thought that a solar module was essential to achieve that. So how does it work with just inverters and racking?
Yes, as we explained, right? So that's also another myth, right? The industry that is. In fact, I was talking with a customer yesterday, where they were really thought, right? That they needed to have solar modules to achieve that, but no. As we explained, right? The table. And Varsha, if you please go back to this slide where I show the summary, right? With
Yes.
I believe that'll be the slide 19.
Yes, I am going back to. Sorry, give me just a second. Okay, here it is.
Yes. So there we go. So this is slide is showing, right? I mean, so the percentage is got it from uh, the elective safe harbor table. So this is clearly showing that if the inverter provides all of these NPCs, domestic content, and the racking, right, also provides all of their NPCs domestically made, customer can achieve 61.4% at the project level for domestic content. As we mentioned today, so SolarEdge inverters will have fully domestic content that will achieve um, all of the NPCs by starting March 2025, and PanelClaw racking is already available. So there is no need for modules to achieve domestic content threshold.
Yes, thank you, Kleber. And the solution is available today, so place your orders for both, as Kleber mentioned. Okay, going back to the questions. Um, is there a price difference between domestic content and non-domestic content products for PanelClaw? John, would you take that one?
Sure. The answer is the price premium is negligible. And I'll quantify it. It's anywhere from 0% to approximately 0.5%. And it depends on whether the customer elects to purchase some of these smaller components, for example, bolts, from domestic sources. We do offer the option to purchase domestically made bolts. Some customers may decide to do that after consulting with their tax counsel. And so we have that option available. But the reason the worst case premium is so small is that, as I said earlier, all of the major components are manufactured exclusively in the United States and always have been.
That's amazing. Yeah, that is very negligible for sure. Okay, another question for you, John. Is it possible to order Claw or has all the production been switched to Claw FR Plus?
Or Claw FR is still available. We anticipate continuing shipments of Claw FR for, I would say, certainly into the first quarter of next year. The development times for large commercial projects sometimes last many months, if not over a year. And so we're sensitive to that. Even though we have transitioned all new designs to the Claw FR Plus product, we will continue to ship Claw FR for many months to come. But as I said, I just want to emphasize that any new design should take advantage of Claw FR. It does offer advantages, in particular for large format modules, which are so prevalent today.
Okay, and a follow-up on that is, are there any other differences in how the eligibility for domestic content is affected between Claw FR and Claw FR Plus?
Really no differences. I didn't highlight this when I presented the product slide. However, the only real differences between the Claw FR and Claw FR Plus product lines are the module clamps. They were completely redesigned. And there is one aluminum component in the Claw FR product that was changed to steel in the Claw FR Plus product. That could have, I would say, a really tiny impact on the direct cost model, but not the safe harbor table approach to the domestic content bonus.
Mhm.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Kleber, back to you. There's a question about will there be any issues meeting demand for domestically produced inverters and optimizers in 2025 and later?
No, it's not, Varsha. So our capacity plans, right? I mean, our manufacturing team, our operations team did a great job, right? I mean, to plan for the Florida facility, and the capacity will be higher than the current annual demand of inverters and optimizers, and as we expect a higher demand as folks switch to the domestic content products. Like I said, we're planning to ship 2 million optimizers units per quarter in early 2025. So there will be a ramp-up period for C&I products, which we start in March 2025, but the expectation is that this ramp-up period will not take long.
Okay. And since I'm with you, one more question on what's the difference between the elective safe harbor table and the direct cost method to achieve the domestic content bonus?
Yeah, so I think the summary is simplicity, right? I mean, so as 2023, there was the guidance with the direct cost where you had to achieve direct cost from each of the manufacturers, right? I mean, and then doing the equation, doing a calculation of everything that was everything that's domestic in the numerator over everything else, right? I mean, the bill of material. So there were other steps, right? I mean, that the project owner had to go through to achieve this direct cost from suppliers, from equipment suppliers. But the safe harbor table, as mentioned, right? I mean, makes things much simpler, and there's no need to get direct cost. So it becomes, instead of being a division, it's an addition, as I mentioned, right? So as long as we, like SolarEdge inverters and PanelClaw, we provide the MPCs that qualify, it'll be just a matter of adding those percentages to qualify whether or not the project achieves the domestic content threshold.
Okay. All right. Lots of questions coming in. I think given the time, we might get through a couple more. And then if for any of you, if we haven't gotten to your questions today, we will get back to you over email. Kleber and John both will. So if there's any other questions you want to send our way, please send it to training@solaredge.com and we'll get back to you in the next week or so. Okay, so two more. As I said, John, this one might be a good one for you. Will the IRS issue further guidance to clarify some of the ambiguities mentioned in the presentation? And if so, when?
It's difficult to say with certainty. However, the expectation is that the IRS will issue new guidance before the end of 2024. And that comment is really based on information that we've received through our close involvement with SIA, who is actively working with the Treasury Department and the IRS to clarify how the entire Inflation Reduction Act is applied to solar projects, including the domestic content bonus credit. So absolutely, I think the expectation is that it's coming soon and that it will be helpful. Of course, there's no guarantees, but that's what we're anticipating.
Got it. Thank you. And last but not the least, this is probably a question for both of you. What is the documentation that is available to customers to prove these domestic content levels? John, do you want to go first?
Sure. We have a declaration that we provide to customers under NDA. And so any customer that is interested in working with PanelClaw on leveraging the domestic content bonus credit, please contact your sales representative. If you're not sure who to contact, you can reach out to me and we'll walk you through the process.
Perfect. And Kleber, what is it on our side?
Yes, it's the same thing, Varsha. You know, I mean, that John mentioned. So we have a declaration letter, right? I mean, that's also can be shared under NDA. However, we also have a letter that can be shared without an NDA, kind of just that summarizes the domestic content level that we have. And like John mentioned, it's similar to us. Contact your sales representative. If you have any questions, connect with Varsha and I, and they'll make sure to point you in the right direction.
Awesome. I think we'll stop there. And we'll, again, for anybody who we didn't get to today, we will be sure to contact you shortly. And a copy of this recording, along with some resources, will be sent in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned. And I want to kind of thank our speakers before we end today. Thank you, John and Kleber, for all your insights. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And as always, appreciate your business and your partnership on domestic content. Have a good one. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you.